Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. She told me to keep my distance while zipping up a suitcase she claimed was for a solo healing weekend. She didn't look at me. She didn't say goodbye. She just grabbed her bag, tossed her hair over her shoulder like she was walking out of a hotel, and closed the door behind her. That night, I found the charger she forgot to pack. By morning, I found everything else. 3 missed calls on her iPad, one from someone saved as workshop-led don't answer. We'll come back to him. And 2 from a number I paid the bill for but never knew existed. The 4th notification was a photo. One of those live photos that plays a short clip when you hold it down. I shouldn't have held it down, but I did. And I watched in 5 seconds, the woman I made pancakes for every Sunday kiss a man wearing the exact same watch I gave my brother for his birthday. Except that wasn't my brother. And it wasn't a goodbye kiss. It was a see you later. That morning, I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I didn't call her. I opened the hallway closet, pulled out the duffel bag I used for camping trips she always pretended to be too tired for, and I started packing. Clothes, documents, phone charger, dog leash. I took the dog too. I left her a note on the counter. You wanted distance, so here's all of it. And then I disappeared. But if you think that's the worst of it, you're not even close. Because the next time she saw me, I was the one holding the phone, and she was the one whispering, please don't press play. To be continued. It's funny how quiet the world feels when you leave without making noise. No screaming, no slammed doors, no accusations hurled like knives in the hallway. Just one last breath in your own house, and then the slow, almost peaceful walk toward nothing. After I left, I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not my brother, not my coworkers, not even my therapist, who, ironically, I started seeing because she kept pushing me to be more independent. So I gave Clarabelle exactly what she wanted. Space, distance, silence. I booked a cabin 2 hours north. One of those forgotten Airbnbs with peeling wallpaper and a faucet that squeals like a tea kettle. It was perfect, isolated, cold. I watched the frost creep in from the corners of the windows every night and thought, this is what my marriage became. Frozen at the edges, brittle in the middle, and pretending to be something cozy. But Clarabelle didn't call. Not once. Not even to ask where I was. She didn't text, didn't email, didn't check on the dog, nothing. It was like I died and she didn't notice the body was gone. Until she did. Day 4, I got a notification from our shared cloud account. A new device had logged in using my old tablet. The one she claimed she lost at the airport 3 months ago. I had forgotten about it. But apparently she hadn't. At first I thought nothing of it. Then I remembered something. That tablet had a synced folder of all my photos, notes, journal entries. Things I used to write down when I was anxious or unsure. Half-written thoughts. Feelings I never said out loud. Even a letter I wrote to her months ago, explaining that I was scared I was losing her. But I didn't know how to say it. She never saw that letter. Until now. And suddenly she called. I let it ring out the first time. The second. The third. Then I answered on the 4th, just to hear the sound of her hesitation. Everett? She asked, voice soft. Where did you go? I almost laughed. Where did I go? I'd been disappearing in front of her for a year, and she never once asked. You read it, didn't you? I said. A pause. Some of it, she admitted. Why didn't you say any of that to me? I did, I whispered. Just not with words you were willing to hear. She went quiet, for a long time. Then she said something that made my hands go cold even in the heated cabin. He said I should block you, that it's better if we don't speak anymore. But I don't want that. I knew who he was. I didn't need a name. It was always him. The man with the navy jacket. The one who smiled like life was a joke he was in on. The one she met on Tuesday nights when she told me she was leading late therapy groups for teens. So I asked, is that what this was? A soft launch into his life? She didn't deny it. She just said, it wasn't supposed to be like this. No, it never is. But this is where it gets messy, because even after all that, part of me still wanted to believe she had regret. That maybe she missed me, or the version of us before the rot set in. So I made a mistake. I said, If you want to talk, really talk, come find me. No lies, no explanations, just truth. She said she would. But instead of showing up at the cabin, she sent him. And what he brought with him, it wasn't just a message. It was a warning. The knock came at 7:12 p.m. That's not the kind of detail most people would remember, but I do. I remember it because I had just sat down with leftover stew, staring at the fireplace like it owed me answers. I wasn't expecting anyone. The only people who knew I was here were ghosts from my contacts list, and Clarabelle, who clearly had no intention of seeing me in person. So when the knock came, steady, confident, 3 beats like a metronome, I didn't move right away. The kind of knock that doesn't ask permission, just announces arrival. I thought maybe it was the host checking in, until I saw the black SUV through the frosted window. That car didn't belong to anyone on this road. When I opened the door, I was met with a face I'd only seen once. Across a bar table, under dim lights, with Clarabelle's smile stretched wide across it. Navy jacket, watch on his wrist, same smug eyes. Evening, he said casually, like we were neighbors. I didn't invite him in. He didn't ask. He just stood there with both hands in his coat pockets like he was about to deliver a package that didn't belong to him. Clarabelle sent me, he said, as if that explained anything. She could have used her own mouth, I replied. He chuckled. Yeah, she thought about that, but she figured you might take it better coming from me. Every red flag in my gut rose like a siren. He didn't introduce himself, never said a name, just started talking, like we were already in the middle of a conversation I had no idea we were having. Listen, he said, glancing at my dog who growled softly behind me. You're a good guy, really. Clarabelle said that a lot. Said you were sweet, loyal, the kind of man women say they want. I folded my arms. But not the kind they actually stay with, right? His smile twitched. I didn't say that. You did. I wanted to hit him, not out of rage, but out of grief. That kind of low, pathetic grief that makes your fists shake not from anger, but from mourning something you didn't even know had died yet. Then he got serious. She's moving on, Everett, whether you like it or not, and she doesn't want this getting messy. So maybe it's best if you let this go quietly. No more contact, no more notes, no surprises. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. I didn't take it, so he dropped it on the doormat and turned to leave, but not before adding one final thing over his shoulder. Sometimes distance is the most respectful thing we can give someone who's outgrown us. And then he drove off. I stood there in the cold long after his tires disappeared into the trees. The envelope remained untouched for hours. When I finally opened it, there were 3 things inside. A letter from Clarabelle, typed, emotionless, short. It said she was filing for separation, for the sake of mutual growth. A printout of our joint account balance, which had been drained to nearly nothing. And a picture of her, and him, holding hands, standing on the porch of a house with a coming soon private listing sign behind them. My house. She was selling the house. Without telling me. Without even asking. I stared at the image for so long that my eyes went dry. That was the moment the grief stopped. And something else started growing in its place. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was clarity. Because if she wanted distance, she was about to learn what distance really felt like. I didn't go back to the cabin that night. I drove. Nowhere specific at first, just out, through towns with names I didn't recognize, stopping only to fill the tank or stare out at fields too empty to care who was breaking down in them. It's strange how your body still functions when your mind is short-circuiting. I ate a granola bar I don't remember buying. I checked into a roadside motel I don't remember choosing. But I remember the flickering light outside room 203, and how it buzzed like it was warning me not to trust anything that glows. I slept for 3 hours, tops. Then I started digging. Clarabelle underestimated me. She always had. She thought I was soft, gentle, predictable. But she forgot the part of me that made a career out of systems. The part that knew how to trace digital footprints, read between lines of metadata, and follow breadcrumbs people didn't even know they left behind. First, I logged into our joint insurance account, the one she never bothered to change access to. There it was, a new quote request submitted under her name, for a different address. A house, out in New Hampshire, coastal, private, paid in full. And then I found the date of the walkthrough. It had already happened, 3 days earlier. While I was still packing up my life in silence, she was walking through beach-facing bedrooms with him, measuring curtain lengths, probably talking about what shade of paint made her feel most at peace. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was discovering that the down payment came from our savings. Savings she'd moved through a fake business account that didn't even have her name on it. She funneled the money through his LLC. Legally, it looked like he paid for everything. And I was nowhere in the paperwork. I was being erased, methodically, so I stopped playing the quiet one. That morning, I drove to my brother's place in silence. I hadn't seen him in 6 months. We weren't close, not for lack of love, just two very different versions of how to exist. He was loud, confrontational, allergic to restraint. But when he opened the door and saw my face, all the old tension fell off him like dust. "What happened to you?" he asked. "Clarabelle," I said. "She's trying to sell our house." Behind my back. He didn't say anything at first, just nodded slowly like he'd been waiting to hear something like this for years. Then he said, "You want to fix this the right way, or the fun way?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure yet which version of myself was still breathing. But I stayed there for 2 nights, just enough time to draft what I needed, call the right people, and prepare the next move. See, when someone tries to dismantle your entire life behind your back, they never expect you to show up ahead of them. I scheduled a visit to the real estate agency she was using. I pretended to be an interested buyer. I asked for a viewing of my own house, and when I stepped through the front door, escorted by an eager young agent named Michaela, I almost didn't recognize it. She'd already started staging the place. New rugs, new art, new furniture. My chair, the one she used to call tragically beige, was gone. Even the photos on the wall were different. Erased. In our place were generic pictures of landscapes and some faux family posing with a golden retriever. That was when I noticed the brochure on the kitchen counter. It said, "Your new beginning starts here." I almost laughed, because for once I agreed with her. She wanted distance. She wanted a new beginning. Perfect. I had one of my own planned, and it would start with something she couldn't stop, undo, or erase. Something that would turn her quiet betrayal into a very public wake-up call. And I was going to let her walk right into it. I didn't leave the house after that fake tour. I stayed behind when Michaela, the agent, walked the next potential buyers through the backyard. I told her I needed a moment to envision the kitchen. She smiled. She'd heard it before. Buyers get emotional. She thought I was just a sentimental stranger. But that kitchen wasn't someone else's to envision. It was mine. And I didn't need a moment to picture anything. I was remembering. I remembered the night Clarabelle stood barefoot in that kitchen, holding a bottle of wine we couldn't afford, telling me this house would be our forever. I remembered hanging the lights she picked out, painting the cabinets, arguing about whether the tiles were ocean gray or sad gray. Every corner had fingerprints she pretended to scrub away now. But mine were deeper. I had bled in this house, figuratively and literally. And she wanted to flip the page on it like it was a bad chapter in someone else's novel. So I made a decision, a quiet one but final. I stayed in town, didn't return to my brother's place, didn't check back into the motel. I found a short-term rental nearby and started watching the house. Not obsessively, I wasn't stalking her. But I needed to know when she came and went, what she brought in, who she brought in. If this was a new beginning, then I wanted to know how quickly she was living like the past had no teeth. She didn't move in with him. That surprised me. Instead, she visited occasionally, dropping off boxes, working with stagers, spending hours on video calls from the empty living room. I knew she was planning something, some kind of event. It wasn't just a sale, it was a performance. Clarabelle had always been the type to polish a moment until it looked like it sparkled on its own. I figured it out the day a local photographer parked across the street with gear in his trunk. She was doing a feature, an article, probably for some design blog or local magazine. A before and after, a story of transformation. The sad woman who rebuilt her life from the ruins of a failed marriage, without bothering to mention who left the bricks scattered in the first place. The shoot was scheduled for Saturday. I overheard her tell the stager while carrying in a vase she pretended was vintage. They talked in design terms, but I heard the layers underneath. This wasn't just marketing. It was erasure. But Clarabelle made one mistake. She used a company I once helped set up their cloud storage system for. Small local firm. I had access to their internal folders years ago and never revoked it because, well, it never mattered. Until now. So when her feature day arrived, I logged in and saw the proofs in real time. Photos of her standing in my living room, smiling next to a fireplace I built. Her arms folded like she owned the moment. Captions already drafted. After hardship, Clarabelle found renewal in the bones of an old space. I didn't need to be angry anymore. I had something better. I made one phone call, not to her, but to the listing agent using my legal name. I requested a freeze on the sale and sent over documentation proving I still had co-ownership. She tried to move the paperwork through his LLC, yes, but the title? It hadn't fully transferred. She was acting like she had a house in her name that wasn't hers to sell. That wasn't a bold move. It was a dumb one, and it gave me leverage. So I waited until the photos went live. The post hit her page that Monday. Bold header, soft lighting, thousands of likes within hours. That night, I posted a reply. No insults, no rants, just a screenshot of the legal freeze and one line. You forgot to tell them your new beginning still has my name on the deed. She blocked me immediately, but the message didn't need to stay on her page. It spread. The magazine quietly pulled the article within 24 hours. Clarabelle's friends started asking questions. And he, Mr. Navy Jacket, went suspiciously quiet online. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. Clarabelle wanted a clean break. But she didn't ask what happens when the person you're leaving behind is still holding the last piece of the story. I didn't expect her to come to me. That wasn't Clarabelle's style. She was all about distance, clean exits, untangled endings. Her way of coping was to write you out of the scene and pretend you were never there to begin with. But 4 days after the article fell apart, after the flood of passive-aggressive comments and suspicious messages started clogging her perfectly curated online life, she showed up. She didn't call first, didn't text, just knocked. It was around 6:30 p.m. I was eating takeout lo mein and watching a muted documentary about whales. Not because I cared about whales, but because I needed something that didn't remind me of people. When I heard the knock, I didn't even move at first. There was a second knock, then a pause, then a softer knock, like maybe she didn't want the neighbors to hear. I stayed quiet. And when I finally got up and looked through the peephole, there she was, Clarabelle. She looked different. Not in the dramatic way. She wasn't crying. She wasn't broken. She was just disheveled. Not bad day disheveled. Coming apart slowly disheveled. Her hair wasn't brushed. Her shirt had a stain near the collar. She stood with her phone in one hand and her other arm crossed over her stomach like she was trying to hold herself in. She stayed out there for about 10 minutes. I counted. Then she finally spoke. Everett, I know you're in there. Silence. I know what I did was awful. I know. But you don't have to punish me like this. That part almost made me laugh. Punish her? She took a scalpel to my life and started carving pieces out while I was still living in it. And I was the one punishing her? I was scared, she continued. I didn't know how to tell you things weren't working. I didn't know how to ask for something else. So I took it. That line stuck with me. So I took it. She said it like someone explaining why they borrowed a sweater. She didn't say she regretted it. She didn't say it was wrong. Just, she took it. I didn't think it would matter. I didn't think you'd fight me on it. That part hit harder than anything else. She didn't think I'd fight. Because she thought I never had. She was right for a long time. I let things slide. I gave in to her moods. I folded when I should have spoken. I thought love meant letting someone win more than they lost. I thought being patient would earn me permanence. She didn't want love. She wanted silence that didn't get in the way of her reinvention. Eventually, she gave up and walked back to her car. I watched her sit in the driver's seat for a while, typing something on her phone. Then she drove off. A minute later, my phone buzzed. One message. "You really meant it, didn't you? About there being no more us." I stared at the screen. No answer. That was the moment I realized she never really believed I could leave. She thought I'd hover on the edge, orbit her like a sad moon, waiting to be pulled back in with some half apology and just enough charm to rewrite history. But I wasn't orbiting anymore. I wasn't even visible from her sky. And I wasn't done. Because while she was busy repainting our life to fit her new story, she forgot something important. I had the original draft, and I still had one card left to play. 2 days after Clarabelle knocked on my door, I thought the silence would settle again, that she'd vanish back into her polished world, repaint whatever cracks had formed, and keep dancing through it like the floor wasn't buckling beneath her. But I forgot one thing. When people lose control of the narrative, they panic. And when they panic, they talk. I hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks outside of my brother and a few lawyers. But that morning, my inbox was a war zone. Subject lines like, "Is this true? Did you know? I'm so sorry. I didn't see it then. I didn't understand what was happening until I opened the first one. Then the second. Then the third. And then I saw it. Someone had leaked the original house paperwork. Not just documents. Screenshots. Timeline comparisons. The fake LLC filings. A side-by-side of Clarabelle's staged real estate feature, next to a dated photo of us hanging the same painting in that living room 5 years ago. No insults. No petty captions. Just facts. It was surgical. It didn't come from me. Not directly. But I didn't have to guess long to know who did it. My brother had always told me, "People like her count on you keeping quiet. You stay quiet long enough, you become the villain in your own story." I thought he was just being dramatic. Turns out, he was waiting for the right moment to hit send. And when he did, the fallout was instant. Clarabelle deleted her post within the hour. But it was too late. The screenshots had already made their way into local real estate forums, a few design Facebook groups, even a Twitter thread titled, "When your ex tries to sell your shared house behind your back." Her comments section went dark. She turned off replies, removed her relationship status. I watched it all happen in real time, not with satisfaction, but with something stranger. Stillness. This wasn't revenge. It was truth with receipts. And then came the real storm. The call from the man who had backed her the entire time. Mr. Navy Jacket himself. The one who smirked through my life like it was a show he'd already seen the ending to. Except now he wasn't smug. He was shaken. He called from a blocked number. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to hear him out. "Everett," he said, "we need to talk. You made that decision for both of us months ago," I replied flatly. "No, listen," he insisted. "This is bigger than you think. Clarabelle didn't just lie to you. She lied to me, too." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "So the thief got robbed, huh? She told me you walked away. She said the house was already hers. She said," he paused. "She said you cheated first. That you moved out to be with someone else." For a moment I couldn't even respond. Not out of shock, out of familiarity. That was her pattern. When cornered, create a new villain. And she painted me as the one who abandoned her. "She lied to everyone," he said, and this time his voice cracked. "And now she's saying we were never serious. That it was just her process of rediscovery. Whatever the hell that means." I didn't respond. I didn't comfort him. I let the silence sit. Then I said, "You're not the first person she erased." He sighed. "So what now?" "You move on," I said. "And if you're lucky, you learn something." That was the last time we spoke. I didn't need his apology. I didn't want it. He was just another character she cast in a story where she always came out brave and reborn. But this time, the audience wasn't buying it. And I hadn't even shared the final chapter. Because tucked away in my cloud storage was something no one else had seen yet. something Clarabelle had forgotten even existed. And the moment I opened it, I realized the ending she'd planned was about to fall apart. The video was just under 4 minutes long. Grainy, shot vertically, shaky audio. It was recorded almost a year before everything fell apart. Back when Clarabelle and I took that trip to Maine, we'd found a tiny bookshop on the side of the road, and she begged me to record her doing a fake author interview, for fun. She sat in an armchair, held up a random book, and pretended it was her memoir. "What's it about?" I asked behind the camera. She smiled without hesitation and said, "It's about a woman who nearly ruined the best thing that ever happened to her, but realized it just in time." Then she looked straight into the lens. "Let's just hope it's fiction." She forgot that clip existed. But I didn't. I had kept it. Not out of bitterness, but because for one brief second, it felt like the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. After the fallout, the article takedown, the property freeze, and the implosion of her curated narrative, I uploaded that video privately to our shared drive. No message. No context. Just the file. She watched it the same day. Didn't reply. Didn't need to. She knew. I didn't send it to shame her. I sent it to close the loop. To remind her, and maybe even myself, that some things aren't meant to be rewritten. And for the first time in a long time, I finally meant it when I said, "There's no more us." That chapter was over. And something strange happened after that. I started sleeping again. Not with TV noise or anxiety loops, but real sleep. I stopped checking her socials. I deleted the folder with all the screenshots, all the documents, all the receipts. Not because I forgave her, but because I forgave myself for staying as long as I did. I moved back into the house 6 weeks later. She stopped fighting for it. Maybe she knew she'd already taken enough. I repainted the walls, got new curtains, adopted a second dog. I even built a small deck out back, the kind we always said we'd make when things settled down. Only now it's mine. All of it. My silence. My story. My peace. Clarabelle? Last I heard, she moved to Portland. No more Instagram. No more workshops. Just gone. Starting over somewhere else. Probably with a new name and another healing season on the way. But I'm not angry. Not anymore. Because the version of me who begged to be heard, who stayed invisible in his own house, who whispered "I love you" to a closed door, he's gone too. And the man who took his place, he finally knows the difference between distance and freedom. That's the end of the story, but not the end of your voice. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever had to quietly walk away from someone you once gave everything to? What did that moment feel like? And don't forget, subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more powerful, raw, and real stories just like this one.